Hell for Halloween. So, but anyway, I thought I would start with an old favourite of mine, one which I didn't actually know that I was going to tell this story until just now, and it's all about a frog and a crow. You see, Crow was sitting high up on the roof of a house on the chimney looking for her dinner when she spied a juicy frog in the tall, lush grasses. Ah! She flew down off that chimney and she picked that frog up and flew back up onto the roof of a nearby house. She put the frog onto the chimney and she put Claw onto Frog just to stop her from escaping. And she was just about to eat her up for her dinner when she heard. She looked around to see who was there, who was laughing, but there was nobody laughing. And so she turned back to Frog once again and was about to eat her all up for her dinner when she heard. And she looked down at Frog, and sure enough, it was Frog who was laughing. "Wow, Sister Frog," said Crow, "why are you laughing? After all, I'm about to eat you all up for my dinner." "Oh, you just go ahead and do what you have to do, and don't you worry about me at all," said Frog. "No," said Crow, "I need to know why you are laughing." "Well, I'm laughing because you brought me to the very place where my mother lives, and my mother is a big frog. And if she thought you was going to eat me up, she would hit you and knock you all about." "Ah! That wouldn't do," said Crow. So she picked up Frog in her beak and flew along the roof until she came to a chimney. And she landed on that chimney. She put Frog onto the chimney and she put a Claw onto Frog and was just about to eat Frog up for her dinner when she heard. And she looked down at Frog. She said, "Frog, why are you laughing now? After all, I'm going to eat you all up for my dinner." "I'm laughing now," said Frog, "because you brought me from the place where my mother lives to the very place where my uncle lives. And my uncle is twice as big as my mother, and you will be in twice as much trouble." Ah! Crow didn't want that. So she picked up Frog in her beak and she flew down off of the roof, and she flew over the gardens, and she flew over the hedges, and she flew over the walls until she came to a garden where there was a stone well, and she landed on the edge of the stone well. And she put Frog onto the stone well, and she put Claw onto Frog, and she was just about to eat up Frog. And do you know what? Do you know what? I've got to tell you this right now. I don't know if you know what I mean, Baba, when you're shaking your head like that. I have just got to this point in the story and realised I can't remember what happens next. You know, I just said to you that I didn't know I was going to tell this story until now, and I can't remember quite what happens at this point, but Frog ends up down in the bottom of the well, and I'm really sorry, and I'm highly embarrassed that I've forgotten this, but Frog ends up down in the bottom of the well, swimming around in the well. And Crow, sitting on the top of the well, says, "Frog, I was terribly afraid that I wouldn't be able to eat you up for my dinner. So why don't you hop up here again now, and I'll eat you all up." And Frog said, "Why don't you come down here and get me if you want me for dinner?" And with that, Crow flew away and never saw Frog again, and Frog swam away and never saw Crow again. And do you know what it is about that story? That's one of the first stories I learned 30 years ago, and I've been telling it for 30 years. But I didn't know I was going to tell it tonight, and I forgot that bit.
But you did grand, and no one would have known had you not told on yourself. But that's happened
Well,
to me. I was in the middle of telling a story, and I have several stories that had the same characters in them, but they're slightly different. And I got in the middle of the story, and I said, I couldn't remember which story I was telling. So I looked at my audience. I said, and so, well, what do you think happened next? And the kid said, Anansi did so and so. I said, yes, that's exactly right.
exactly.
Right. And then he put me back on track. But you're great. About you told us earlier that all of your accoutrements are locked away. I looked at Zoom and at being in Marrakesh as an opportunity to get back to the basic roots of my storytelling.
Yeah.
So today you're sharing your roots of your, well, I shouldn't say roots, but you're sharing your roots of your storytelling, and we are blessed for the opportunity. So I'm going to attempt to be quiet and let you tell.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Okay, so well, this story is one that makes me think very much of going into the winter, and it's all about a boy who lives with his grandmother in the far, far north, where in the winter the nights are long and the days are short and it's cold and the wind blows. And it was the middle of winter, a bit further into that season than we are now. And this young boy, they lived with his grandmother on a farm in the middle of nowhere. And while they had a store of oats in the barn, and one day the old woman said to the boy, I want you to go over to the barn and get some oats. Maybe she was going to make some porridge or whatever, other, like some oat cakes, that kind of thing. So the boy, he made his way across the farmyard to the barn, and there was a big barrel in the barn, and he reached down into that barrel and he took a handful of oats and he put them onto a bowl, and he set off back across the farmyard, back towards the farmhouse. But as he was making his way across the farmyard, who do you think came swoosh, 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 swooshing down through the trees between the farmhouse and the barn and swoosh off across the fields? Shall I tell you? It was the north wind. And as he went by, he picked up all of the oats in the little bowl that the boy was carrying. So the boy went back into the barn and he reached into the barrel and he took another handful of oats and he put them into the bowl and he set off back to the farmhouse across the farmyard. And as he was going back across the farmyard, who do you think came swoosh, 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 swooshing across the fields between the farmhouse and the barn and back off up through the trees and over the hill and away? Shall I tell you? It was the north wind on his way back again. And as he went by, he picked up all of the little oats that the boy had in his bowl and was gone. Well, there was nothing left for it. He went back into the barn. He reached down into the barrel. Only this time, there was only one handful of oats left. And he reached down into that barrel and he took that handful of oats and put them into his bowl. He went to the door and he looked up towards the trees and the hill. No sign of the wind there. And he looked down across the fields to see if the wind was there. There was no sign. So quickly he made his way between the farmhouse, the barn and the farmhouse. And he got halfway across that space when who do you think came swoosh, 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 swooshing across the roof of the barn, lifting the tiles as he went down the side of the barn, across the barnyard and up the side of the house and woof off to the four corners? I'll tell you, it was the north wind, of course. And as he went by, he picked up all of the oats that was in the bowl that the boy had, and now he had no oats left. And the barrel in the barn was empty. The barn was empty. There was no food left. Him and his poor grandmother were going to starve. So what was he going to do? There was nothing else to be done, but he had to go and see the north wind and get his oats back again. So off he set on a journey. And I can't tell you if that was a long journey or a short journey, but eventually he came to the house of the north wind and he knocked on the door. The door opened, and there, standing in the doorway with his hair billowing and his belt pulled tight around his waist, was none other than the north wind himself. "Hello," said the north wind. "How nice to see you at my door. And what is it that brings you here today?" Well, the boy said, "It might be nice to see me at your door, but when you came to see me at my door, you took away all of the oats that me and my poor grandmother had, and you took them away with you. And if you don't give them back again, then we are going to starve." "Oh," said the north wind, rubbing his hand through his beard, "I'm terribly sorry, but I don't have your oats any more, and I don't know where they are." "Well," said the boy, "what are you going to do about it? Because me and my grandmother are going to starve." And again the north wind ran his fingers through his beard, and he ran his fingers through his hair. Try that one. And eventually he said, "I have the very thing." And he went out to the kitchen and He opened the drawer of the kitchen and he took out a tablecloth and he brought it and he gave it to the boy and he said, "Now take this tablecloth with you. Oof. And whenever you are hungry, just lay it across the table and say these magic words. Lay, cloth, lay, and it will lay you a most magnificent feast." And the boy said, "Thank you very much." And he tucked the tablecloth under his arm and he set off back to his grandmother's. Well, if it was a long journey or a short journey, I couldn't tell you, but I tell you this, halfway there, he came upon an inn and he decided to spend the night at the inn. So he went into the inn and there was a room full of people. There were people playing music. There were people talking in corners. There was even a storyteller sat by the fire telling stories. And he sat himself down at a table and the innkeeper came across. And the innkeeper, whose name was Ivanovich, by the way, Ivanovich, he came across and he said to the boy, "What would you like to eat?" And the boy said, "Oh, don't you worry about that." And he laid out the tablecloth and he said the magic words, which were, lay, cloth, lay. Can anybody remember? Lay, cloth, lay. Yes.
Lay, cloth, lay.
Lay, cloth, lay. Yes.
This is the lay.
And there on the table was the most magnificent feast that you could imagine. There was, what was there? Can anybody tell me what was there?
Pizza.
Pizza, of course, there was pizza, the big plate full of pizza, and there was
lasagna.
Lasagna, yes, lasagna, of course,
Pancakes.
and what?
Pancakes.
Pancakes, did you say?
Yeah.
Pancakes, fantastic. With a savoury pancakes or sweet pancakes, or what was in the pancakes?
Chocolate.
Chocolate, did you say?
Chocolate sauce.
Chocolate sauce on pancakes, that's fantastic. And have we got everybody? It seems to me that some of our oh no, okay, it's my
Vegetarian stew.
Vegetarian stew, yes. And what about you, King Henry? Can you think of anything? What was on that table? What would you have had if you could have had something there?
Okay.
I didn't catch. Did you catch that, Baba? Whatever
No,
it was.
that was from the ones I call the grands. I'm not sure what's going on with King Henry, but he's here.
I see him.
And I know he's listening attentively.
There was all kinds.
Can I have croquettes?
You can have croquet as long as you've got a lawn big enough.
No, croquettes
Oh,
to eat.
croquettes. Sorry, yes, croquettes.
The salmon ones?
Salmon.
Or
croquettes.
seafood, fish food. Yeah, seafood. Yeah.
There was so much food. There was
Now I'm hungry.
piles of potatoes and so the boy started to help himself to the food that was there, and when he had his fill, by the way, the innkeeper couldn't believe his eyes when he saw this. When the boy had finished eating his fill, he turned to everybody else who also couldn't believe their eyes when they saw that happen. He said, "Help yourselves," and you can bet that within no time at all that food was gone. And the boy rolled up the tablecloth and he put it under his arm and he said, "Well, now I think I'm going to go to bed." And he crept off up the stairs, making sure that he did. Oh no, he crept off up the stairs, and as he stepped on the fifth step, it creaked away and off he went to bed. Well, the innkeeper, whose name was Ivanovich, was sat by the fire later that evening, tapping the embers with his poker, and he said to himself, "I should have a tablecloth just like the one the boy has." And so he crept up the stairs, making sure that he didn't step on the fifth step, so he didn't wake up the whole household with its creaking. And he crept into the room where the boy was sleeping, having first gone to his kitchen and taken a tablecloth that looked just like the one that the boy had. And he very quietly took the tablecloth that the boy had and replaced it with his own, and he went away. And in the morning the boy woke up and he said thank you very much to the innkeeper, and everybody was there, and he made his way back to his grandmother's. And when he got back to his grandmother's, he said, "Grandmother, I've been to see the North Wind, and he's given us a tablecloth that will give us the most magnificent feast you can imagine just by saying magic words. And the old woman, she said, well, you know, hearing is one thing and seeing is another. Show me. So he rolled out the tablecloth and he said the magic words, which were lay cloth lay.
Lay cloth lay.
Lake off Lane.
Well remembered, everybody. Lay cloth lay, and there on the table was absolutely nothing. Not a crumb, not a morsel, not a speck. And the boy scratched his head. I've been tricked by the North Wind. He said that tablecloth only worked once, and he set off back to the house of the North Wind. And whether it was a long way or a short way, I couldn't tell you. But at last he came to the big house at the edge of the world with a big green door, which I didn't tell you the colour of it before. And he knocked on the door, knock, 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 and the door opened. And there was the North Wind again, with his hair billowing and filling the sky and his belt pulled tight around his waist. Oh, hello again, said the North Wind. How nice to see you back at my door. Well, it might be nice to see me back at your door, said the boy, but that tablecloth you gave me yesterday, it only worked once, and me and my poor grandmother, we're going to starve. What are you going to do about it? Said the North Wind, it should have worked more than once. I don't understand. But I tell you what, I might have something that will help you, he said. And he went out to his barn and he came back with a goat. He said, this goat is no ordinary goat, as you might imagine. All you have to do is say these magic words, lay, goat, lay, and the goat will lay you a great pile of gold. And the boy said, thank you very much. And he took the string that was around the goat's neck and he set off back to his grandmother's. And if it was a long journey or a short journey, I still don't know. But halfway home, he came to the inn. And he made his way into the inn. And there were all the people sat there, some around the fire telling stories, others over there singing songs and playing music, and people over there having dinner and talking. And he sat down at the table and he ordered some food. And the innkeeper brought him his food, and he sat and he ate. And when he finished eating, he said to himself, I'll just try that trick with the goat. And he turned to the goat and he said the magic words, which were
Lay cloth lay. No, that's the wrong one.
That's the other one.
lay, goat, lay, of course.
Lay goat lay.
The goat lay a great pile of gold that sparkled in the firelight. And if you had been there, you would have done exactly the same as everybody else. Your jaw would have dropped until it hit the floor, and your eyes would have opened wide in amazement, and you would have stared at that great pile of gold that had magically appeared from nowhere. And the boy took a little bit of the gold, put it in his pocket, and he told people to help themselves. And you can imagine it was all gone in moments. And if you had been there, as they say, you would have gone home richer than you would have arrived. Well, the boy said goodnight to everybody, and he took the goat and he set off up the stairs to bed. And in the middle of the night, the innkeeper, whose name was
Ivanovich,
sat by his fire, tapping the embers with his poker. And he said to himself, I should have a goat, just like the one the boy has. So he crept upstairs, making sure he didn't step on the fifth one that creaked, and so he didn't wake up the whole household. He crept into the room where the boy was sleeping, having first gone to the barn and taken a goat that looked just like the one that the boy had. And he brought it, and he took the boy's goat and replaced it with his own, and he crept out. In the morning, the boy woke up, said thank you to the innkeeper, said goodbye to his new friends, and made his way back to his grandmother's. And when he got there, he said, Grandmother, I've been to see the North Wind. Oh, he's given us this goat. He's got magic. And it's fantastic. And the old woman said, well, hearing is one thing and seeing is another. Show me. So he turned to the goat and he said the magic words, which were,
lay goat lay.
I was too late.
Yeah, spokesperson for the entire group. And well, whatever it was that the goat lay, it certainly wasn't gold. And the boy realised he had been tricked, again by the north wind, and there was nothing left for it but to go back and see him again. And whether it was a long journey or a short journey, I still can't tell you. But at last he arrived at the big house at the edge of the world with a big green door, and he knocked on the door, knock, 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 and the door opened, and there was the north wind with his hair billowing and his belt pulled tight around his waist. "Oh, you again," said the north wind. "How nice to see you." "Well, it might be nice to see me," said the boy, "but that tablecloth you gave me, it only worked the once, and that goat you gave me, it only worked the once, and so I think you've tricked me, and what are me and my poor grandmother going to do but starve? What are you going to do about it?" And the north wind, he rubbed his hand through his beard. "Oh," he said, they should have worked more than once, but I don't understand." And he rubbed his hands through his hair. "I think I have the very thing," he said, and he went off to his shed, and he came back with a stick. "Now this is no ordinary stick," said the north wind. "If anybody ever gives you trouble, all you have to do is say, 'Set about stick,' and the stick will set about them until you say these magic words, 'Stop, stick, stop,' and then the stick will stop, but it will only answer to your voice, mind." And the boy took the stick and he said, "Thank you very much." And he made his way back to his grandmother's. And halfway home he stopped at the inn, and he went into the inn and he sat down and he had a meal. And there were the people by the fire telling stories, and there were some people over there singing songs and talking and playing music, and people over there eating their meals and talking. And he had some food, and there all the time was the stick sat in the little corner beside him. And And then the evening came to an end, and he said good night to everybody, and he went off to bed. And the innkeeper that evening was sat by his fire, tapping the embers with his poker, and he said, "I should have a stick just like the one that the boy has, even though I haven't seen it do anything. It must be magic." And so he crept up the stairs, making sure he didn't step on the
Fifth step.
Fifth step.
the one that went
Creak.
and woke up the whole household. And he crept into the room where the boy was sleeping, and only this time the boy wasn't sleeping, because in his head he had made a little connection between the disappearing gifts and the innkeeper. So as the innkeeper reached out, having gone to the shed and fetched a stick of his own, one that looked just like the one the boy had, he reached out to take the stick. And the boy woke up, opened his eyes, and said the magic words, which were,
Set about stick.
"Set about
Stick.
Set about, I'm confused now. I'll take my first answer. Set about stick. And the stick flew up into the air, and it flew around the room 3 times like a helicopter, and the innkeeper watched it fly, and then whoosh, bang, oh, it hit him on the head, and then whoosh, bang, ow, it hit him on the shoulder, and then whoosh, bang, it hit him on the leg, and then whoosh, bang, oh, it hit him on the bottom, bang, on the head, on the shoulder, on his legs, on his arms. "Oh, ow, ow, make it stop," he said, "make it stop." But the boy, he waited a little while just to make sure that the innkeeper meant what he said when he had said to him, "If you make it stop, I'll give you back all your gifts." And then at last he said the other magic words, which were,
Stop, stick, stop.
"Stop, stick, stop." And the stick flew through the air and landed in the boy's hand. And the innkeeper went off, and he came back with the tablecloth, and he came back with the goat, and the boy tried them both, and there was a delicious meal, and there was a pile of gold. So he knew the innkeeper has kept his word. In the morning he said goodbye, and he made his way back to his grandmother's. And when he got back to his grandmother's, he said, "Sit there, say now, watch this." And the old woman sat down, and he turned to the tablecloth, which he spread on the table, and he said the magic words, which were, "Lay."
Lay cloth,
Lay
lay.
cloth, lay.
And there, before the old woman's eyes, was the most delicious meal she had ever seen in her life. And when she had eaten her fill, he turned to the goat and he said the magic words, which were,
Lay, goat, lay.
Lay, goat, lay.
Claire, you're getting in there quick, aren't you? What about these poor children? They don't get a chance. Lay, goat, lay. And there,
Snooze, you lose.
There was a great pile of gold glistening before the old woman's eyes. She couldn't believe it. It took them months and months and months to use all that gold before they needed some more. Now, here's the thing, okay? They lived and lived and lived well after that day. And I know that because I was there just recently. And they said to me, if you're ever in a room, and we are in a room full of people who are kindly people, tell them they're welcome to come and visit us anytime they like. And when they're here, they can eat as much food as they can consume. And when they leave, they can take as much gold as they carry. But remind them this, don't take any of those things without asking, because if you do, remember the stick that sits in the corner of the room.
Beautifully told. I love it. I love it. The only thing missing from that story was a hen. So we could say, yeah, so we could say lay, hen, lay. Because that's what they do. But I'm just messing, but that was great. And you reminded me, well, you know, I tell a story about how the stories got all over the world. It's an Anansi tale. And in that story, excuse me, and one of the tales is an Anansi tale. Excuse me, I got all choked up on your performance. What I was saying is it's an Anansi tale that parallels yours, but instead of it being a little boy, it's about Anansi. But it's brilliant. It just shows how stories interconnect no matter where they're told from in the four corners of our very round world.
Yep, and I got to tell you, I once went to a storytelling. I was a part of the storytelling CAF, doing a tour across the UK, and we went to various places around the Midlands and the Northeast. And I walked into one of the venues one evening, and the guy who's hosting it said, "Do you mind if I'm going to introduce the evening and host it? And I just wanted to tell a quick story. It's from China. Do you mind?" And I went, "No, by all means, tell the story from China." Well, it was that story. And I had to suddenly find another story to tell. I was like, how did I possibly know that that was going to happen? Where are we in time? So
you're fine. We're only about half past the hour. You still have time. I'll let
Okay,
you know.
that's great. So, we are. I'm just going to tick my little thing so I can see the stories I've told you. I need to know. They don't tell you them again. You see.
You're
Right.
doing a brilliant job, Gary. Just continue being the wonderful teller that you are.
Thank you. This is so the stories. That story, by the way, I picked up in a storybook. I didn't hear or read stories until I was in my late 20s, and I walked into a bookshop in Southampton. I bought this, but I thought that cover looks nice. I bought it, and I found that story in it. That was the first story that stuck in my head ever. So anyway, and that was in the 80s. That was the 1980s. This story, I can't quite remember where I first heard this, and I've heard different versions of it. But one autumn evening when pickings were, it was actually the morning, I beg your pardon, when pickings were slim, let's say, on the edge of a great forest there lived an old man and an old woman. And these were the days when the men used to let the women do all the work. Pretty much like these days, I suppose, but in many places. But anyway, so the old man, he was in bed and he said, "Wife, I'm hungry. Go and make me some breakfast. But first of all, go and collect the wood for the fire." Well, they lived at the edge of the woods, and they had to put wood on the fire. And she went out every day and collected wood for the fire. So the distance she travelled got further and further as they went into the autumn, and she picked up all this. So she went off on this long walk. And I haven't got time to read what you just said there, Baba, but she went off for a long walk into the woods and she picked sticks and she picked sticks. And it was early in the morning, and it's that time when, the cobwebs have got the dew on them. And if your light catches on, they sparkle as cobwebs do, And she was walking along and she was picking up sticks, and something caught her eye in that little bush just over there, just on the other side of this bush here. And it was a little sparkling. And first of all, she just thought, oh, it's the dew on the cobweb. But there was something about that sparkle. So she went and she inspected closer, and she inspected closer. And when she looked, her eyes. It was indeed a cobweb, a dew-laden cobweb indeed, but in that cobweb was the strangest creature she had seen in her life. It was none other than a fairy with gossamer wings trapped in the web. And the fairy was pulling her wings and pulling her arms and pulling her legs and her feet, but she couldn't escape from the web. And the more she pulled, the tighter she was held, and the tighter she was held, the more she was pulled. And the old woman could see that she was getting tired. And just up here in the corner of the web, watching and waiting patiently, was a spider, waiting for the fairy to be too tired. And then that would have been that. Well, the old woman wasn't having this, so she reached into the web and she took that fairy and she pulled it out. And she held out her hand, and the fairy stood on her hand, and she brushed down her wings and she brushed down her arms and her legs. And she looked at the old woman and she said, "You're a very, very kind old woman, and I'm going to reward your kindness. And how am I going to do that, everybody?"
Give him a wish.
Just
Give her
the
a
one.
wish.
Yeah. Give 3 wishes.
Three
Just
wishes.
one. Just one.
No,
How about
three
wishes?
wishes, Claire. Hold your wished. She held 3 wishes. And whatever you wish for will come true, said the fairy. And she finished brushing down her wings and her legs and her arms, and she flew off. And the old woman didn't even bother to pick up the sticks. She ran as fast as she could back to her hut, back to her house. And when she went in, there was a husband sat in bed waiting for his breakfast. "Well," said the husband, "where's my breakfast?" "Oh, you've worried about breakfast," she said. And she told her all about the cobweb and the fairy and all about the 3 wishes. And the old man couldn't believe his ears rather. He had 3 wishes. How fantastic. "Yes," said the old woman, "what are we going to wish for? What are we going to wish for?" And the old man, he sat there, "I don't know. Oh, I'm really hungry. I wish we had the world's biggest sausage." Poof! There on the table was the world's biggest sausage. And the old woman looked at her husband and she said, "You old fool, you old fool. But of all the things in the whole wide world that you could have wished for, you could have wished for wealth, you could have wished for the children we never had, you could have wished for a home that was comfortable, and you could have wished for no end of things you could have wished for." She said, "Well, what's the matter with you? When God was giving out heads, did you think he said beds and asked for a big soft one? What? I wish that sausage was stuck to the end of your nose." Poof! There it was, stuck to the end of the old man's nose. And it didn't matter what they did. Whatever he did, he twisted and he turned and he pulled, and she twisted and she got up on his shoulder and she pulled, but that sausage was good and well and proper stuck to the end of his nose. "What are we going to do? I don't know what we're going to do." And the old woman said, "I think I know what we're going to do." And she went over to the kitchen table and she opened the drawer and she put her hand into the drawer and she pulled out a big old carving knife. And the old man looked at her and said, "Don't you come anywhere near me with that knife. Don't you come anywhere near. I wish I'd never said the word sausage." Poof! And it was gone, along with the last of their wishes. Now, there are some stories where people say that somehow they managed to survive. The sausage survived, and they had 3 weeks of eating good sausage, at least from the story. But I'm more of a realist. When he said, "I wish I'd never said sausage," it was gone along with those wishes. And the moral remains: if you get 3 wishes, be very careful what you ask for. I've got to say, I've never had 3 wishes.
I believe you told that at the first Marrakesh Storytelling Festival, because I'm recalling hearing this story, but it had to be from you, as the previous story about the stick and the goat and the north wind, et cetera, et cetera. But you're doing a fabulous job. Continue, please.
Did I tell the North Wind at Marrakesh as well then?
I think so because, like I said, I'm remembering an Anansi equivalent. So I
Yeah.
think you did. Oh, by the way, I know I've been putting things in the chat. Not they were aimed at everybody else, so you don't have to read those until after you tell the story.
Yeah, no, no, no. I was going like, I'm not going to get distracted.
Right.
Distracted.
And I apologize if it did distract you. That was not my intention.
No, no, I'm sure. I'm sure it's okay. It's a long time since I've been in this world storytelling calf space. So
Well, you're
um,
doing a great job, and I wouldn't say that if you weren't.
no, well, that's
You're
great.
doing a
Thank you.
great job.
Um, I mean, I did
Oh,
just take
wait,
that one.
Claire said we're not trying to distract, just enjoying.
Great.
So, yeah. So you do the telling and I'll do the reading.
So, okay, so maybe I did tell those stories, but I don't think I told these stories because right now I'm going to tell you a couple of stories that are spooky. So, be careful. And parents, I understand, okay? I understand that sometimes these stories can be just too much and, need to leave. That's absolutely fine. We don't want any nightmares, okay? None at all. Your children will tell you what happened later when they see you. Okay, in England or in Britain, we say teeny weeny, and teeny weeny might mean the same as itty bitty or very, very small. Where you live in the world, I don't know. But itsy bitsy, is that right? Itsy bitsy, yeah. So I can't replace teeny weeny with itsy bitsy because I'm bound to get it wrong. But this is a story about a teeny weeny woman, and teeny weeny means tiny. A teeny weeny woman who lived in a teeny weeny house in a teeny weeny village. And one teeny weeny day, she decided she would go for a teeny weeny walk. So she went to her teeny weeny hall and she took a teeny weeny hat and a teeny weeny coat and a teeny weeny scarf, and she put them on her teeny weeny head, and a teeny weeny wrapped the scarf around her teeny weeny neck and put a teeny weeny coat on her teeny weeny body. And she went to her teeny weeny front door and she opened it and she walked out of the teeny weeny house, along the teeny weeny footpath, down to a teeny weeny gate and onto the teeny weeny road. And then she walked along the teeny weeny road towards the teeny weeny village centre. But as she walked along the teeny weeny road, she came upon the teeny weeny churchyard, and she thought she would take a teeny weeny shortcut through the teeny weeny churchyard. And so she opened the teeny weeny gate to the teeny weeny churchyard, and she walked through the teeny weeny churchyard past the teeny weeny gravestones. And as she was walking past the teeny weeny gravestones, she happened to notice a teeny weeny bone on top of one of those teeny weeny gravestones. And she thought, that teeny weeny bone would help me make a very delicious teeny weeny soup for my teeny weeny supper. So she picked up the teeny weeny bone and put it in a teeny weeny purse, in a teeny weeny bag around a teeny weeny waist, and she carried on a teeny weeny walk. She walked all the way around the teeny weeny village, and she got back to her teeny weeny gate, and she walked up the teeny weeny footpath to the teeny weeny door. She put a teeny weeny key in the teeny weeny door, opened it, and went into the teeny weeny house. She put the teeny weeny purse from her teeny weeny bag on the teeny weeny side in the teeny weeny kitchen, and she went, oh, I'm really a little bit teeny weeny tired. I think I need a teeny weeny nap in my teeny weeny bed. So she made her way up the teeny weeny stairs to a teeny weeny bedroom, and she climbed into a teeny weeny bed, and she pulled the teeny weeny covers up to her teeny weeny chin, and she fell into a teeny weeny sleep. Well, she hadn't been sleeping too long when she heard a not so teeny weeny voice from somewhere saying, "Where's my bone?" And that made her a teeny weeny bit frightened. So she pulled the teeny weeny cover up to her teeny weeny eyes. And as she lay there, the not so teeny weeny voice got a little bit not so teeny weeny again, and came again saying, "Where's my bone?" And she pulled the cover over her head because she was more than a teeny weeny bit frightened by now. And the door banged open, and the voice called out nice and loud, "Where's my bone. And the woman, from under her covers, she said, "It's in the teeny weeny purse in the teeny weeny cupboard in the teeny weeny kitchen. Now go and take the teeny weeny bone and go away and never come back again." And that was the last she heard of that voice or saw of that teeny weeny bone. And it was the last teeny weeny shortcut she ever took through the teeny weeny churchyard. And that's the end. I can't remember where I got that story from. I can't remember, but I'm happy to share it with you. You can come back out from under the covers. I can see there's some undercover hiding going on over there. And I don't blame you, but that was not the scary story, is it?
I love that story. And you'll pardon me if I borrow it and add a slightly African American twist to it when I tell it. But I love the teeny weeny. That was anything but a teeny weeny tale.
Yeah, it's a great story, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, you absolutely should borrow it. And what stories are there for if not for sharing?
Stories are like a good meal.
Yeah,
They're to be shared. And
yeah,
repeated.
and also you need to add a little bit of spice and a
Yes.
little, something.
Yes.
So if you told it exactly as I told it, it wouldn't grow, would it?
No, it wouldn't. You have time for another story if you like.
Yeah. How much time have we got? Do we finish at 7?
We're going to finish just a few minutes shy of 7, so I can tell about upcoming events.
Oh, okay. So,
But if you go slightly over, I'll cover it.
okay.
I think. Oh, wait a minute. My apologies to Waleed. We are taking into consideration that you have other things to do outside of flying the magic carpet.
Yeah, absolutely. If it goes over, it will only be by a minute or 2 or 10 or 30. No.
I just caught that. That was a teeny weeny exaggeration.
It was. So, I'm not even going to tell if I've got a short amount of time. I'm only going to get through these stories, I think. Right. Well, probably at the turn of not this century, but the one before, maybe the early 1990, 20th century, maybe even a bit further back than that. There was a grave digger, and I've actually let's call him John. So John the grave digger, and so he would go to work every day, and he would dig a hole, and there'd be a funeral, and they'd bury the person, and he'd come back and cover it all over, and that's what he did. But in the wintertime, it was a bit more, it was a bit harder because the ground was harder. So, so he was there one day digging away, and it was a bit frosty, and so the ground was quite hard, and he would dig, and he got down to the quite almost finished. He'd probably have to come back tomorrow and finish the job. But anyway, it was coming on the end of the day, and it was a little bit dusk, and he needed to finish the job, and so give himself about another hour, and then it would give him a little bit of time to walk the mile or so back to his house before it got dark, because there were no street lights in his village in those days. So he was anyway, he was a bit tired and a bit cold, so he sat down, and he'd got a flask of tea and a couple of biscuits left. And he thought, I'll just have the flask of tea and a couple of biscuits and before I finish, and then I'll carry on. So he had a sip of his cup of tea and ate a little cracker biscuits, and then fell asleep. Only a very, very light sleep, but when he woke up, it was coming on dark, and he had to get home. So, he quickly climbed up the ladder, and as his head came above the top of the ladder, he saw the strangest sight he had ever seen in his entire life. A sight that sent a chill down his spine and made his knees knock very slightly, because coming through the churchyard towards him, a little way off at this point, were 9 cats. And those cats were up on their hind legs, and 8 of them were carrying a coffin. And on top of that coffin was a little golden crown. And they took 3 steps. They went 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. They stopped, and they all went, meow. Now you can join in with this. You don't have to do the microphones because that clunks it up a bit, but you can join in from where you are. So they took 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. They all stopped, and they went, meow. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, meow. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, meow. Until at last they were almost face to face. John and the lead cat There was a large tomcat with a big white triangle in his chest. They were all black cats, and he had a big white triangle in his chest. And he leant into Tom, and he said, to John, and he said, "Tell Dildrum that Doldrum is dead." "Pardon?" said John. And that wasn't because he was deaf, you understand. "Pardon?" His knees were knocking and he was shaking all over. "Tell Dildrum that Doldrum is dead." And with that, the cats turned around and they marched out of the churchyard. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, meow. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, meow. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, meow. Getting quieter and quieter as they went away. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, meow. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. And then they were gone. And only when they were gone did John leap out of that hole in the ground, and he ran the entire mile back to his cottage. He burst in through the door, and there was Mary, his wife, at the sink, preparing the evening meal. He was home early-ish. And there was the baby sleeping in the cradle, and there was Thomas the cat wrapped up, curled up on the fireplace, on the mat in front of the fireplace. He ran and he said, Mary, you won't believe what's just happened to me." And he told her all about the cats. "Tell Dildrum that Doldrum is dead." He said, "How can I tell Dildrum that Doldrum is dead if I don't know who Dildrum and Doldrum are?" Just then, Mary, his wife, said, John, look." And she pointed, and he felt a shiver go down his spine, and the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end as he turned, and he looked behind him. And Thomas the cat was climbing up onto his hind legs on the mat in front of the fire and stretching. "Doldrum is dead," he said. "Doldrum is dead. Then I am king of the cats." And with that, he shot up the chimney with a flurry of sparks, and they never saw him again.
Whoa. Let me say that again. Whoa. Every story you've told today, I seem to recall having heard it before, but I don't recall. It had to be from you.
Well, maybe I've done it here.
Yes. However, I'm not complaining, because a story worth telling is a story worth retelling. And that you. I am very seldom left near speechless. Notice I said near speechless. However, today you have left me near speechless and charged to speak a lot at the same time. You have been very, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and all those assembled, let's give another round of applause to Gary Cordingley.
Thank you so much.
I loved your telling. I love your telling very, very much. Let me
thank you for
real
listening.
Quick. Oh, the pleasure is mine. Let me slide this in real quick. So coming up this Sunday, October 19th, at 6 p.m. UK time, we have the Worldwide Story Round. And I think there's Get a Story in Edgewise. I always mess that up. And then next Friday, we have an extremely special guest. She was one of our youngest tellers way back in, and she has matured into, she's a teenager now, and she's going to be telling stories. I call her Princess. But next Friday, August 24th at 6 p.m. UK time, we have Princess Jasname. So I invite everyone. King Louis, be here for this. We invite everybody to come and to listen and partake. And that's a little bit of business I had to get out of the way. Hopefully John will join us next week. But I think John is touring and telling tales, which I hope to be doing very, very soon. Keep me in prayer, good people. And once again, once again, Gary, oh man, this has been extraordinary. Yes, it's given me a boost. I have a couple of unpleasant things to deal with today, but now I have something to keep me afloat. So this is good. Thank you very, very much. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Claire and HB iPad and King Henry and World Storytelling Cafe, especially Waleed for flying the Magic Carpet Ride. Thank you, Baba C. Oh, that's me. Thanks, everybody. Once again, Gary, until the next time, thank you very much.